Okay, so I am the last of the three of us to come into the new field. This is the field where I got that beautiful big hammered coin just a couple of nights ago. I'm going to upload that video. In fact, any second I've got it sitting waiting to go live. Here it is again, in case you haven't seen it enough. So it is from the reign of Elizabeth I of England, and you can just make out her bust. Look into the left hand side, and it dates to sometime in the 1550s through to 1603, and I believe it is a shilling or 12 pence, and it came from this field. Martin, interestingly, had coins of James VI and also of Charles the, I can't remember if it was the first or the second. So we've got consistency, we've got a range of probably about 100 years that's produced hammered coins, silver hammered coins from this field. And we know that there is an old fort close by which was a castle from the very sort of beginning of the Norman conquest in England, around about 1080, and it was in permanent residence all the way through until the 1600s. And some old maps suggest that there's a trackway across this field. So it's also just been ploughed for the first time in as many years as I can remember. I'm guessing 8 years, 10 years, could even be 15 years since this field was last ploughed. So I have got high hopes that some good stuff has been brought to the surface. Let's see what we get. My first signal back in the, I think we'll call it the hammered shilling field, possibly. You might also notice that my headphones have, the batteries ran out, so I've had to go on to speaker. I did charge them this morning before I came out, and it was only when I went to unplug them I realised I hadn't fully plugged the plug into the socket on the wall, so it wasn't actually charging them. So they've given up the battery just a few minutes ago, and I've flipped on to speaker. And we've got an 83, 84. So coin territory. Let's see what we get. A pretty shallow target. Do you see what I see? I'll give you a clue. It's right there on its edge. I do believe that could be a coin. Maybe not actually. It's oh, it's not a coin. It's a dam. It's part of a hand grenade. It's part of the timing mechanism for a Mills hand grenade. See the thread there at the bottom? We are close to the old military field, the old firing range from the First and Second World War, and that is what I think that is. If it's not from a hand grenade, then it's from a mortar, because we know they used mortars, hand grenades, machine guns, rifles and pistols. But I'm pretty certain that is the internal workings of a hand grenade. Damn, but at least it's not a live one. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, and date wise, it's probably going to be from the Second World War era, 1939 through to, I think this firing range was in use until about 1960. Having a wee catch up with the boys. So this is the extent of Mr. Albert's finds. He's got himself a thing, copper alloy, maybe a brass. Don't know what that is, possibly part of a spoon handle, a knife handle or something like that. It's been moulded one of two halves. It looks like the right sort of shape for a knife handle, I would guess. Then he's got himself a thingy-majiggy with a hole in it. And he's got himself a thing and a button, which is part of a dome button, so that would have been decorated probably on that side. Might well be military, probably off a waistcoat. And he's got himself a great big roll of lead. which could be one of two things. Either it's roofing lead and it's just an offcut that's been rolled up, or it could be someone's been carrying that to make musket balls. So they would often have sheets of lead, they would roll them up and they would put them in their pocket, and whenever they had to make a musket ball, they would melt it down and cast a little musket ball or 10. But he's also got himself a coin. It's a halfpenny, and it's Edward the 7th. Bertie, as his mother, Queen Victoria, knew him. The Playboy Prince, 1906. So he ruled from 1901 till 1909, I think it was. So he's one of the rarer monarchs to find, because he drank and smoked himself to death. Pretty sharpish, but still better than nothing. Pete's come in with a beauty. Look at that, he's got himself a pocket watch. What a shame it's not solid silver or gold, but it's lost its face. You can see where the mechanism would have been. You can soak that in WD-40 when he gets home. Maybe it'll open. You can see the mechanism inside, maybe find a maker's mark if he's really lucky. I'm guessing Victorian, which would put it sometime between the 1840s, 1901, give or take. And we've had quite a few of them over the years. I've had probably 8 or 10. Normally get one a year, one every couple of years. Someone out in the field drop their beloved pocket watch from an era long before wristwatches were commonly available. Still, it's a find, albeit it's a shame it's not silver or solid gold. Another ear-blowing signal coming through at a solid 86. Could be a coin, could also be aluminum or aluminium. Only one way to find out. I'm quite surprised by how deep that signal was. I suspected it was going to be just in the top few inches because it was such an ear-blowing signal. You can see I've started to hit the turf, so that's been flipped from the surface when the field's been ploughed, and it's been dumped. It's not been a particularly deep plough, maybe 12 inches or so, 15 inches at a push. So the turf, the grass layers ended up at the bottom, and all the fresh soil's been pulled up to the top. I don't need my pinpointer because I spotted it as soon as it came out, and it's right there. It is, I think, another lead weight, and it is a lead weight, a very heavy lead weight. It is a sort of beehive kind of shape. A hole in the top, I'm guessing a hole there as well. Let me give it a wee rub-a-dub, a wee wash with the old suntan lotion. Tell you what, it smells brilliant. So there is a hole, and I'm sure it is, yep, there's a hole 100% there in the bottom. So that would go all the way through if I had the inclination or the time. I'm sure I could stand here for hours and clean that all off. But now that is a little lead weight. Well, I say little, it's not that small. I think, I don't know, it's like a beehive sort of shape. And so probably would be part of a steelyard weight. I don't see any letters, but it's quite crudely made. So I reckon there's a good bit of age to that. I'd say it's too big to be a loom weight, to be for the manufacture of cloth or wool, because that probably weighs 5 ounces or thereabouts, which is what, 28 ounces to the gram, so 140 grams. I'd say that's probably 140 through to 200 grams. So it's getting on for certainly a quarter to a third of a pound, I would say, but it could be slightly more. And it is definitely a lead weight, so not far from this point. We obviously had that big lead weight with the bronze loop in it. could that be of similar age, medieval or even older? Let me know in the comments below. Either way, I am very happy with that. I had one similar to this out the neighbouring field about a year ago. I'll need to dig it out for comparison. Excellent. This signal is sort of mid-tone, coming through. It's not the best. 67, 68, 70, but it could be a bit irony. Going to dig it anyway. Quite a deep signal, 3 spadefuls down, and it's come out. I think it's going to be junk, but I just can't figure out where it is. It's in my hand is where it is. Right, question is, where is it? Right, it's definitely here. So it looks like a little fragment of possibly lead, could be bronze. It's heavy, it's one of the two. Let's give it a wee wash, see if we get the telltale colours of lead. Yes, it's lead. So it's a little fragment of lead. Oh well. Another kind of mid-tone signal. Consistent 51. I'm going to say a bit of lead again, but could be a bit of copper as well. Either way, I've not got high hopes, but you've got to dig them. We are out, and as expected, it is nothing special. It's part of a, I don't know, a little copper alloy sort of clip or band, maybe a sort of tensioner for a water pipe or a hose or something off a tractor. But either way, junk. I'm glad to report the rain stopped. Didn't really come to much, but the wind is relentless at the moment, non-stop. We're really exposed on this position where we are just now. And a pretty solid 85, 86, so definitely within the realms of a coin, but it doesn't sound very deep. Didn't even need to dig, you might have already spotted it, but that right there was on the surface. I didn't see it until I put the spade in, and that is a little threaded nut or screw. You'll notice all these patches of stone. Now this is the old trackway, this is the old path, and because the plough's been through here and there's been a little bit of rain on top, it's drawn up all the stones to the surface. So that's why we're concentrating around this part, probably also why we found so many nice things around here. And this came through at a 55. Oops, there we go. This came through at a 55, and wasn't expecting anything good, didn't film it. And you might just be able to make out a head there looking to the left hand side. You can see a nose and an eye and a head and a hairline, and then up here you can see 1-1. So this is bizarrely half of a coin of King George II. We've had George the First. George the First was actually, if I remember right, his grandfather, because the son of George the First, the oldest son, who would have inherited the throne, he died before his father. His father outlived him, and they weren't particularly close anyway. So George II wasn't actually the son of George the First, but was the grandson. And it's little under half of a penny or a halfpenny of George II. So George II was on the throne from about 1727 until 1760, and it was George II who put down the Jacobite uprising of Bonnie Prince Charlie in 1746 by crushing the Jacobite army at the Battle of Culloden. in 1746, just outside Inverness, where my ancestors fought for Clan Ranald of Clan MacDonald on the left flank of the Jacobite lines. Unfortunately, some of them could run quite fast, otherwise I wouldn't be here today. Starting to move back down the field. This one came through at 66. Sounded reasonable. Just a quick kick of the soil with my foot reveals a bullet. So, I don't know, I'm guessing 303. Could it be a 762? Is that the sort of standard European issue? I'm not sure. But either way, it's a bullet fired from a gun, and probably from the sort of First or Second World War era. Not got much time left. I have to go and spend some quality time with my other half. Fingers crossed we might pluck something else out before the day is up. We'll wait and see. Low and slow. Low and slow. Some people would say I'm actually going a little bit fast, but you get awful excited sometimes. It's hard to pace yourself. So let's see if we're going to get one more good find before time is up. I was hoping for one more signal before I ran out of time. I've got about 150 metres of the field left to go, and coming through at an 80. Far from the best signal in the world, but we'll take the top off, see if it sounds any better. Always a good idea, just give the ground a little scrape with your foot. My spade's getting in the way. To be honest, it's still pretty junk, but it's reading 80, so it might be something, just maybe a little bit deeper. Let's give it a go. Well, it was a pretty deep signal. You see the hole there, it just came out on the last scoop. I reckon we're down about 9 inches, maybe 10. And right about here, is a very solid 80. So let's get the Garrett carrot out and track it down. Don't think it's going to be a coin, it doesn't sound coin enough like. There we go, I think we've got a bit of lead. We have got a very, very perfectly round musket ball. Seems to be the new spoon for me. It used to be every time I went out metal detecting I found a spoon or a piece of a spoon, and failing that I would get a bit of cutlery or a fork or a knife or something. Nowadays, every time I seem to go out I find a musket ball, at least one. So it's probably for a small caliber musket ball. I think it's too big to be a pistol shot, and date wise it's probably going to be 16 or 1700, so kind of Jacobite era potentially. And I'm not sure if it's been fired or dropped. There's a little bit of a dent at the top there. Might have just been fired into very soft soil, because down here there's not a lot of stone. It's pretty easy to dig, so it may well be that that's the case. And as I mentioned before, the first firearms came to Scotland around about the 1380s, and quite quickly Scotland embraced not only guns but also cannons. Good. Well, let's see if we can dig something else out before we're done. Another sort of mid-tone signal. It is coming through about 67. Try and get the light a bit better. 67, 68. It's difficult between the wind and the light, trying to get you in the right angle, but The little harness that I bought seems to be going down quite well. I don't do sort of live digs because I find it's just a little bit bouncy, but on this occasion, why not try and do one? I think we've got a bullet. I think we have. I think we've got another bullet. I think I can see something right there. That is indeed. That is a bullet. A nice colour to it. So again, it is I think a 303. It's in perfect condition. It's barely got a scratch on it. So as I say, very, very soft soil down this end of the field, so must have just penetrated straight into the ground. Looks like it's got a lead core inside it. I'm going to guess 303, but let me know in the comments. Date wise, pretty certain it will be 1939, 1945, that kind of era, when this was used as a rifle range for the local regiments that were training here. This one came through at a very silent 60 something. I thought it was going to be another bullet, but it was in actual fact very deep. It was about 9 inches down, and it is a piece of bronze. It's a little fragment of bronze, very, very heavy. Don't understand why it was so low, because normally bronze comes through in the 80s or the 90s, but yeah, it's a little sort of piece of casting or dross from bronze, so that could be a good sign. Who knows, could be thousands of years old, could be from the Bronze Age, 4,000 odd years ago, but we'll never know. I'm just killing time now waiting on Albert. Pete's already gone, and Albert's at the other end of the field where I got that hammered coin, and he doesn't seem to want to leave, so I just messaged them to say, get a move on. I've got to get home before my wife falls out with me, so I'm just going back and forward, and got an 84, but it was all over the place. It was way down at 15 and all that. I thought it was going to be a big lump of iron, but I think we've maybe got another musket ball. No, we don't. We don't have another musket ball. We've got a little drawer handle, a little knob. Pardon the pun. It is. It's a little fitting, I think, for a bit of furniture. Copper alloy, maybe a brass. So I suspect, yeah, a little drawer handle, a little pull handle, or something off a tractor. But either way, unfortunately, it is junk. Okay, so that's it. Another day in the fields of Perthshire. Not bad going, to be quite honest with you. I'm pretty happy with that. No hammered coins today, but hey, you can't get them every other day. Really nice buckle, which I like. You can see the remnants of the iron there now it's dried out. I'd be interested to know how old you think that is, but I'm reckoning could be Jacobean, could be. Might also be Georgian, but 2 coins, George the First, George the Second, both in reasonable condition, at least they're identifiable. And then this interesting big lead weight, which is probably off a steel yard. It's got a hole all the way through it for suspension, and I've just dropped the musket ball, but not at all like me. But either way, yeah, pretty chuffed with that. And the boys got a few bits and bobs too, including Pete, who got those couple of very worn Charles I, Charles II turners, which are copper 2 pences, but still they're from the 1600s, so it's a good sign that there is lots more to come from this field. Also buzzing about Detectiville, the big metal detecting rally in the southeast of England. Certainly myself and Pete are going. Martin hopefully is coming along too. Fletch is dragging his heels. I don't know if he's going to make it or not. And we've invited Albert, but I think he's too busy with work. So may well just be Pete and I, but possibly it'll be me, Pete and Marty, and you never know, we might get the band back together and we might end up with Big Fletch as well. So fingers crossed, we'll see how that one goes. But that's going to be a fair trek for us. I think it's about, with a stop off or a couple of stop offs, I think it's probably going to be an 8 or 9 hour drive for us. And before you all worry about my performance last year with my tent, I've got a new one, which hopefully is big enough to lie down in straight. So we'll see you on the next dig. Less than 3 weeks to Detectiveville.